What's up guys, it's All Anthony and welcome back to the Civic vlog that you hopefully remember and hopefully still love, because in today's video we're installing the MPC Motorsports rear subframe brace and rear tie bar on my Honda Civic. Let's go. All right guys, and I am back, and boy does it feel good to be making videos again. I took 2 months off because I was in the process of moving, and if you haven't moved before, moving sucks. Me and my wife bought this new house here with a 3-car garage, as you can see, that I am extremely excited for. Things are still pretty cluttered because we're not quite settled in just yet, but I'm hoping to turn this garage into something really cool here in the upcoming months. But I'll cover this later, but in today's video, we are installing the MPC Motorsports rear subframe brace and rear tie bar, which is something that has been long overdue. I teamed up with MPC Motorsports several months ago to make this video, but due to the move and all the craziness of the COVID situation, I had to really put videos on the back burner. But now that I'm close to settled, I'm ready to start filming content again. So getting back on track, the goal of today's video is to install the rear subframe brace and rear tie bar on my Honda Civic. Now this is something I've been dying to do after doing the lower control arms, because not only do I think it's going to look a hell of a lot cooler, but it's going to continue to increase the structural rigidity of the rear of the Honda Civic, thus increasing handling. Now the lower control arms helped a ton, and so did the rear camber kits, especially once I got the car all aligned and everything dialed in. But I think that this is going to be the cherry on top for the rear, and I think you guys are gonna dig the way that this looks. So anyway, I have some parts over here that we need to review, check out the instructions, and then get started on the install. All right, so I've already started laying things out, kind of mocking things up on how this is gonna go. So MPC Motorsports includes an instruction guide here. It's really basic, but it works, and it shows you everything that you're gonna need. So basically what we have is we have our front brackets, which is going to be the main connecting points, and then from there we have our rear brackets, which this is all going to tie into. We have the hardware over here. I have these bolts that I'm not quite sure what to do with just yet. And then over here we have the brace itself and the rear tie bar that I'm gonna open up. Oh, hell yeah, dude. Holy smokes. This is just the rear tie bar, and this thing already looks super badass. Dude, this looks freaking awesome. All right, so if you guys haven't heard of MPC Motorsports, I want to touch up on that really quick. So there's a couple reasons why I chose to go with their kit over other companies' kits. First off, I like the fact that everything was made in the US under one roof. So basically all of their design, all of their machining, all of their billet work is just here within the US. And I really like that because I feel like the support of other companies is kind of lacking in that area, whereas they have answered literally all of my questions, as annoying as I can be about the install and about talking about the parts. And so these are going to work with the True Heart lower control arms, which I'm super pumped about. And for everybody else wondering, why didn't I continue to go with the True Heart kit? Why didn't I go with some other kits? Well guys, I like the way that this looked the most personally. I just dig the way that all of this design looked, and it's going to match the finish of the True Heart kit, which I think is going to look really cool as well. So not that the True Heart kit is bad, or not that other kits are bad, it's just the quality was here. I liked the customer service, I liked my conversations with them, and I felt like this was going to be a good call for my car. So anyways guys, so we have the rear subframe brace, we have the rear tie bar here. I'm going to kind of look over the instructions, see what I need to start putting together before we start disassembling things on the car, and then we're going to go from there. All right guys, so I have everything laid out here to make things pretty simple to follow. They make this really easy. So they do include extra lower control arm bolts, and these are gonna replace the factory bolts because these are longer, and these are needed for the actual tie bar. Now then, from top to bottom, going from top to bottom here, we're gonna go the longest bolt, medium bolt, smallest bolt. So we're gonna get this first bracket in here. So this is pretty simple. That literally just lines up there, and we're gonna send in these small Allen bolts to hold that in, and then these lower bolts are gonna go in here. And so essentially, if you're running a sway bar, you're gonna utilize this middle bolt right here. Since I'm not running that at this time, I'm just gonna be rocking these 3 bolts just to get into the car itself. So for this, I'm gonna use some blue Loctite. Doesn't say that you need it, but I figured what's the worst thing that can happen. So a little bit of blue Loctite on these bolts right here. And then once this is lined up, start sending that through. Now these don't need to be torqued down really tight, so I'm just gonna kind of get them snug and then get that bottom bolt in. Cool, so once we've gotten that, now we're gonna send in this bottom one. I'm gonna put some Loctite on this one. The other ones I'm probably not gonna put Loctite on. I don't really see the point, but again, what's the worst thing that can happen? So I'm gonna start sending this bottom one. This bottom one's a little stiff, so I'm gonna use a wrench over here, 12 millimeter, start sending this through. Cool. Now it does have torque specs on everything, so if I want to break out the torque wrench, so basically we're looking at 19 foot-pounds on these 3 right here, and then on these right here are 7 foot-pounds. So 7 foot-pounds, I mean, that's just, we're going hand tight. So to introduce you to my latest impulse buy, with all the projects on the Civic and on my motorcycles and everything like that, I was getting really frustrated because I never had a torque wrench that went super low. And so I wanted to get something that was good for as low as 5 foot-pounds up to like 30 foot-pounds, because that's kind of like that odd area where you're not really sure what the hell to do. So I picked this thing up, Summit Tools, electric torque wrench. I've been using it on the bikes over here for a couple months, and this thing's freaking awesome. So I'm gonna use this to get these torqued down to 19 foot-pounds.
A few moments later.
So after you guys get that zipped in, you should be left with looking something like this. And so from here, we are ready to go with the install. So like I said before, we have the long bolt for the top, medium-sized bolt for the middle. I think we're still utilizing that even though we're not running a sway bar. And then these right here, these extended ones, are gonna go in like this. So rear tie bar is gonna slide right into that, and this sent right in. All right, guys, so we're ready to knock out the lower control arms now. So we're gonna be removing the most inside bolt and then the bolt connected to the coil over there, and that should allow that to kind of swing down a little bit and give us a little bit more leverage to get the new subframe brace in. So I think it's 14 millimeter bolts. We're gonna knock out both of those, both sides, and get it all set up. So again, inside brackets are gonna go like this with the slant on the inside like that. We're gonna be connecting it to the back, and you guys are gonna see that here in just a second. So I'm gonna knock out one side first, then the other side, and we should be pretty good to go. Oh dude, this is gonna look so sick. This is gonna look awesome. All right, so I'm gonna put this bolt, send this in, just to hold that in place right there. We're gonna have our back side, is gonna go up and in like that. And so I'm just gonna go like hand tight on these, or just snug to the point where I can still finagle the other side a little bit. Perfect, and that still feeds through. Do the other side really quick. All right, guys, so story of my life when working on cars. So the bolts for the lower control arm, basically the bolt going into the frame itself was the shorter bolt meant just for the brace. And so I think they may have included the longer bolts, but again, I moved and I may have lost them. I am not sure. And so that kind of sucks. That kind of halts things for right now. And so they're gonna send out some longer bolts on Monday. Today's Saturday. So I should have them later in the week, but what I'm gonna do for now, since I need my car, I'm just gonna zip everything back together, get all that, because the tie bar itself will be 2 bolts. I'll just basically drop those 2, send 2 more in, and I'll be good to go. But so for right now, I'm just gonna finish with the rest of the brace install. And so you'll see what the brace by itself looks like. And here later in the week, I'll knock out the rest of the tie bar. So kind of sucks. I wanted this to be all in one day, but regardless, it'll be in the same video. All right, guys, so it's a couple days later, and good news, we finally have the right size bolts for that lower tie bar. I'm not sure what happened. I'm not blaming MPC because I may have lost these during the move, but regardless, right when I messaged MPC and told them that I was missing the bolts, they jumped on it and sent them out ASAP. So I have them now and we're ready to get the tie bar installed. So kind of where I left things off is I have the rear brace on at this point. And so when I was basically mocking everything up, I thought, what should I do? Should I actually just put everything back together? Should I put it back to stock? And I just thought, forget it, I'm just gonna send it. I'm gonna put the brace back on, and then what we'll do is when we get the lower bolts in, we'll get the tie bar in. So this is pretty simple. Basically, everything's ready to go. All I need to do is rip out those bolts where the subframe is right there, where the brace is, and then zip in these longer bolts, and we'll be done. I don't think I have to drop any of the other lower control arm bolts because I think it's gonna stay right exactly where I need it to be. So I'm gonna zip those out with the impact and then zip these things back in, and we'll have the tie bar on, and I think we'll be close to done. All right, so I cracked the garage because this new neighborhood doesn't know I make YouTube videos yet, so I just look like a complete weirdo with a camera on my head. Whereas my old neighborhood, everybody knew what I did and nobody really cared, but this one, there's a lot of like joggers and stuff. A lot of joggers, people walking their dogs, and so whenever they walk by and I have a camera on my head, I'm like, oh hey, I make YouTube videos, and they kind of give me the nod like, okay, whatever, man. These are the longer bolts here. So these are 121 millimeter bolts, M10 by 120, whereas the previous bolts, I want to say that came with it, I don't know, that looks like an M10 by 80. That looks pretty short. I went down to the hardware store that same exact day when I found out that these didn't fit, got M10 by 100, and that was still too short. So basically needed new bolts, couldn't do the install without it. So, all right, so basically we're gonna zip out those other ones, like I said, zip these in. I think we should be money. We're grabbing something, so that's a good sign. That is a good sign, hell yeah. That's zipping good. All right, so I got everything kind of hand snug underneath here. So I'm gonna do the same thing with these bolts. I did have to remove those two bolts just to get everything lined up properly. So get everything hand snug, drop it down, torque it down, and we should be good. But I'm gonna get this zipped up over here, and I wanna get some after shots because this looks just so sick, dude. This looks so badass. All right, guys, and that is a wrap. So I know many of you probably have questions like, will this brace work with my control arms or this brand of control arms or yada, yada, yada. And yes, basically, regardless of the control arms that you have, this brace is gonna work because it attaches to the frame. It has nothing to do with the arms themselves, because as long as you can put a screw or a bolt through that lower control arm hole, your money, you're solid. You don't have to worry about it. So really it's just a matter of which brace or which look of the brace you like the best. And I really like the look of the MPC brace. I think it looked really, really good, and it happened to match my True Art lower control arm. So all in all, pretty easy, man. I really think that the tie bar really tied everything together. Get it? No? Now, some of you might have the question of function, right? How functional is the rear brace? Does it make that much of a difference? And in short, yes, it is functional. This is going to stiffen the chassis. It is going to stiffen the rear. But really where a brace comes into play is if you're running sway bars. That's where you're gonna notice the biggest difference, because especially when you're running thick sway bars, these sway bars, right, are causing a lot of tension on the chassis itself, right? So basically when you're hitting a really hard turn or driving extremely hard, you are basically twisting the chassis slowly but surely. And so depending on how hard you're driving, you can definitely warp some stuff and you can definitely mess some shit up. And so a brace is going to stiffen it, is going to keep that from happening. It's going to keep the chassis from warping. But really, am I driving this car that hard? Absolutely not. Do I have sway bars? No, not yet. So at this point, I kind of want to just benefit from whatever it has to offer, but ultimately the look. I'll be honest, man. Call me a ricer, call me whatever you want. I've done a lot of things to this car for looks specifically, and to me, it makes a big difference. It makes my car look cleaner. I feel more confident driving it. I just think it looks super badass. And so down the road, I do want to get sway bars. I think that's going to push me forward into probably the overall goal I have for this car, and being able to have a really fun driving experience and be able to drive this car extremely hard without having to worry about that kind of stuff. So hopefully that answers your question in the long. I know it's kind of boring to some, but hey, I think it looks really badass. I think MPC Motorsports really killed it with that brace design. But overall, I am happy to be back in the routine of making videos, and hopefully more consistent videos at that. I'm sorry I was gone for so long. I've missed you guys. I've missed making content. I feel like I'm that girl that ghosted you guys, and then 2 months later, I'm like, hey, what's up? Do you want to hang out? And you're like, I don't know, dude, you totally ghosted me. And she's like, I'll make it up to you. And you're like, I don't know, I really don't want to get my heart broken. You know, kind of that thing. I want to get back in the routine of making the good stuff, and I really want to get back in the routine of making more content. So basically more Civic stuff planned. I want to do another junkyard video here pretty soon. I have something outside my house here that I want to show you guys soon as well. It's nothing too cool, so don't get excited about it. It's actually not cool at all, but I still want to show you. So let me know what you guys want to see, whether it's Grom content, Civic content, or more junkyard content. Just let me know down in the comments. I really want to push some more stuff out here in the upcoming weeks, especially before it gets cold. So I'm back. I'm happy to be back. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a shorter one. I want to give a huge shout out to MPC Motorsports for sending out that sweet ass brace and that rear tie bar. Like I said, that just looks super badass, and down the road, I'll do some sway bars as well. So I'll put the link down below to the brace and the tie bar as well. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for still supporting me over these last couple of months. If you guys like this video, please give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe down below for more, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Salty Anthony. Peace.